Hey everybody, it's Linda with Stamping School. I'm going to use this Simply Leaves bundle today. It's sort of a modern little leaf stamp set, photopolymer. It's got some nice sentiments in there and easy to punch out. These two are smaller. We need a smaller little punch for that, but you can fussy cut these out. And then these are used if you want to stamp a solid leaf, you can. And stamp these over top, or just stamp these onto cardstock and punch it out. So it's kind of nice. And I like how this one looks like a little tree, actually. So if you had like a bunch of little houses, I could see this being a cute little tree. All right, I've got some tips to show you how to stamp these solid stamps because they can be tricky. I used this set last month. We did this embossing technique and made it sort of just black and white and green, very monochromatic but modern. And this time I wanted to do something, you could do this in fall colors like I did. You can do it in all kinds of different colors, honestly. The leaves are modern enough, I think you could use them all year round. But in this particular case, I wanted something where I used a piece of acetate along the edge, and then the leaves were mounted there. And then of course I had to do the other side because you can see the glue through the acetate. That's kind of cool. It's just an extra little thing. It doesn't take a lot more effort really to stamp two of each of them. And I'll show you some tricks for putting this all together. Now I'm using vanilla cardstock. I like doing these strips about 2.5 inches each with these leaves because when you stamp them and punch them, you can just come right down the line like this and punch them out. If you punch this way, that's fine, but then you've got to cut and, you know, it's kind of a pain. So this way, if you stamp them in a row, up and down vertically, it works better. Now, there's a few little tricks for getting the ink to look good. Solid stamps are always tricky. And these are super smooth with just a little bit of veining in them, and it makes it tricky. If your ink pad is too juicy, this is one thing you can do. So for instance, if I stamp this like this, and it's too juicy, it can get a little bit blobby, and my veining doesn't show through, and it gets very dark. If you have the foam pads, well, even if you have the linen ones too, what I do is I take my block and I just scoot the ink down halfway, and you're just moving it down, and it'll seem like you're not doing much. Now make sure you use something softer, like our blocks have a nice curve on them. Be careful not to use something that is sharp so you don't tear your pad. You can just wipe off the block. But then the ink is not as heavy, so when you go to stamp it, it's nicer. See the difference? This is a little more blobby, and this one is pretty nice. So for this card we need 2 of each one. Now some people say that it's better to stamp on a foam mat if the stamps are solid, and in a lot of cases it works. So for instance, here is the Cajun Craze one that we're going to do here. But if I stamp on, let's say like my silicone mat, and give it just a little extra push, it's the same. So I think my pad probably needs to be re-inked a little bit. It might be a little bit on the dry side, but I kind of like that look. Now the new pads, they're a little different. They are a felt pad versus the memory foam that we have currently. These are the new ones, the magnetic ones, and they are felt. And the ones we had a long time ago were linen. So these I'm finding be a little bit different to work with. So when I come in and I stamp with these, they are extremely juicy, like over the top juicy. And I found them to be very wet, but when the ink dries, it dries lighter. So for instance, this is one that I stamped a few minutes ago and it's already dry, and this one is wet, and when it dries it'll look like this one. So ink lightens as it dries and paint darkens as it dries, so that's helpful. Now I can also scoot my ink down on these also. Just scoot it down halfway and I can actually see it. I know you probably can't see it, but it's actually moving. It's wet looking down here. So let's see how that did, if it still is blobby. Some people will put Versamark on their stamp first and then stamp. I don't want Versamark ink in my pads, so no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to resist that. I don't like that. Now, we're going to come back to this and you're going to see how good it looks when it dries. But you're going to stamp it at first and go, ooh, that's terrible. So you can see as this one is drying, it really is looking better. So you're just going to have to play with what works for you. Your table is different than mine. Your ink pads are different. The amount of ink they have in them, depending on how much you've used them before, or are they brand new. So there's all these different factors. And depending on what kind of ink pads you have, maybe you don't have Stampin' Up! Ink pads. Maybe you've got something else. So it's just a trial and error to figure out what stamps the best. And you know, if you have a stamp positioner like the Stamparatus or the stamping platforms or Misty, you can always stamp it twice and you know it's going to look really good. So punching them is super easy. Now, some people say don't hold it like this because it can pinch your hand. So you can put it down and line it up and punch them out. So we'll punch out 2 of each of these colors. So I chose this gingham paper and the Golden Glow. These are the 5 new in colors. And they've got a pack of designer paper. It's got the pine and it's got the hydrangea and the pink, the Golden Glow, oh, cantaloupe. And then on the other side is a different gingham, so it's a smaller pattern. So I used this Golden Glow, sort of fall-like. Golden Glow cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5. The measurements are below in the PDF for you. And this is 3 inches by 5.5, and then a 3-inch piece of the window sheet, which is so fun to show you on a video because you can't see it very well, but there it is. The window sheets, they're basically acetate. Ours are 12 by 12. They're about 7 millimeters, I think. So it got a good weight to it. But 3 inches cuts down nicely from a 12-inch piece. So when we glue this down, though, we want to not glue this part here because we need to be able to slide these in between the two. But first, I want to tear. So I'm going to just glue down just one side of this paper, just enough to know where I'm going to be tearing. And then from here, I'm going to tear both of them down. Using my thumb and my finger, and just tear. Tear, 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 tear. That's it. Now, these 2 pieces will get a little bit of glue in there. Like that, just like that. And then we slide this one in between the 2. So the trick is, keep this paper pulled back. Get your acetate lined up. You can wipe off the fingerprints later. Okay, line that up and then close it. Make sure there's glue on this side too. And there it is. I'm going to call this a floating edge card. I don't know what else to call it, but the elements are going to float on this little window sheet, so it just gives it an extra little something something. We did 2 of each because it just looks better when you cover up the other side. Now you could just tear this and put it on the card directly and skip this step all the way, but it is kind of cool. All right, just regular glue. And glue it all the way down. I'm going to tuck this one under because I kind of like how that looked. And the last one. I think this would look great in a lot of different colors. All right. Now here's the other side, and that's why you want to cover that up. See that glue in there? It looks terrible. So we do the same thing. Line them up, cover up all of our messy glue. I prefer an adhesive like this that is like a tape adhesive when you're dealing with the acetate. I think it looks better, easier to dry. All right. Now I've got some extra paper on the inside. I tore a little piece here and then added this for a sentiment. And then there's a little trick with this bow. I don't like how this turned out. It's very lumpy bumpy. Even though the knot is here for my bow and then I put dimensionals on each side, there's still a that I don't like. So let's stamp the sentiment. This is no die cutting. We're going to use the Thinking of You Often that comes in there in Old Olive. And this is my straight edge, and I'm going low down to the bottom. Okay. Now we're going to take it to the paper cutter and then just cut that off. So I know you can't really see it, but it's there. There we go. Now that is too much. Can you see that? So let me show you a little trick for how I fix that. So I've cut it off. I've got too much here. This is what I do. I take any piece of cardstock that has a straight edge and I put it up to the top here. Put them both up there like that. Tape them together. That's a little post-it tape. And then I can scoot this down. And it's a little bit easier for me to see where the cut line is. See, I can scoot it, and oops, sorry, I'm off the camera. I can scoot it back and forth and get it just the amount that I need. Let's see how that did. Ooh, that's just right. It's almost easier than trying to stamp on a 1/2-inch piece of paper. And then I just did a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And that's my banner. Now for this twine, this is jute and it's coming out in September. It comes in a 5-pack with espresso and crumb cake and this, I think it's basic beige, but it's sort of a vanilla color, and pecan pie and the peaceful pine. It's a little thick though. So the first time I tied a bow and it left that knot there. That was kind of bumpy. So this time I'm going to make my bow, but I'm not going to tie it. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to cut this off. I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive right here to hold it down. And we're going to pretend that I tied the bow, but I didn't. So I want it to lay flatter. Oh, that's so much better. So it literally is just loop-de-looped around, no knot at all. Can you see that? It's like no knot. I love that color, and I like the wiliness of it. Now, when I put this down, I can put my dimensionals on this side and this side. And I still like to use the adhesive foam sheets. One on this end, and then we'll do one on the other end. So I've got that little bit in between. That's where the bulk of that will go. I like the foam sheets for banners because I feel like with dimensionals, they can still kind of be a little wavy. Oh, it's perfect. Now we're talking. And then, you know, some embellishments. These are coming out in September also. These are from the Painted Patch. So they've got all these great colors that are in here. And look how pretty they are together. That would have been really pretty also to use coral and the pool party and then Cajun maybe. It's really pretty colors together. I should have thought of that. But this would be a good birthday card also. So there it is, the floating edge. Give it a try. There's lots of things that you can put right here. A little peekaboo. Be a nice little thing when they get it to open it up and it's like, oh, that's neat. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. See it, learn it, stamp it.